Hey guys, what's up? Today I want to show you the most obscure JRPGs in my collection. Now these are bottom of the barrel, man. Some of the absolute most obscure, most unknown amongst all the unknown. These could be very well the kings of the unknown, bottom of the barrel, bottom of the abyss on the unknown and the obscure world of JRPGs. So let's begin! Right guys, the first game I want to talk about is an action RPG, an obscure hidden gem I've covered sometimes in this channel before. It featured at number 1 in my hidden gems video on the PlayStation 3. It's called Trinity, Souls of Zeal. It's sort of a weird game, and as you can see down here, it was published by Koei. That's right, this is a Koei Tecmo RPG, action RPG. They still use the engine they usually use for their Warriors game with Dynasty Warriors. But it's still a Musou game, it's still a hack and slash game with hordes of enemies, but not as many enemies as in the Warriors games. It's pretty good, it's solid, you get to choose between 3 different playable characters and each one of them controls a very different. There's the half-elf, he's the main character, and there's this big bulky half-naked guy, and then there's the vampire. She's very slim, very quick, very fast, and just very fun to play with. As a matter of fact, she's my favorite pick. Now this is a dark fantasy role-playing game. You follow the main character, his father gets murdered by the king, by an evil emperor in front of him, so he swears revenge, so he becomes sort of like a gladiator in order to train himself, so one day he can just depart on his quest for revenge. And on his quest, he's joined by the vampire girl and by this other guy, each with their own dark and secret reasons for being there. So it's very interesting. It is a good story. Very dark, evil, one of the darkest stories I've played in the PlayStation 3, but it's all about the action. It's kind of quest driven, but there is a story and it follows the main quest over and over again. So if you don't like these types of action RPGs, a little bit Musou style, like Dynasty Warrior styles, you probably won't enjoy this game, but I do like these games and I love this game. It's a very good game, great game, and very obscure probably because it belongs to a series of games called Zeal. And this is actually the prequel to them all, and there's only 2 other games besides this one. Only in Japan, first one on the PlayStation and the other one on the PlayStation 2. Even the first one on the PlayStation got a remake on the PSP and we didn't even get it. And these are turn-based RPGs for whatever reason, and this one they decided to go action. Anyway, very obscure, very overlooked, bottom of the barrel, but very good in my opinion. Now next one is a PlayStation Vita RPG. It's also available on PC, Steam, I believe, and it is a sequel. I don't have the first game. The first game is called Operation Abyss, New Tokyo Legacy, and this is called Operation Babel, New Tokyo Legacy. Now, this is a turn-based RPG in first person. It's a dungeon crawler. You guys know I'm not the biggest fan of those games, but I did buy this one because it was dirt cheap and because it was very obscure. Now, I don't think you need to play the first game to understand this one because now both games have a customizable cast of characters like most dungeon crawlers in first person, but it's so anime, manga styled, so you're gonna have a lot of fun if that's your type of jam, if those are your types of games. The story isn't all that great. You won't play this game for the story. It's about a secret organization. It's a science fiction universe, a secret organization that fights evil monsters and whatever, the usual plot with young looking characters, powerful and magical girls and whatever. But it's not a game you'll play for the story, as most of these games tend out to be. It focuses more on the actual navigation in these dungeons, long-ass dungeons, and the turn-based battle system, which is pretty decent in my opinion. And it's good, don't take me wrong, I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. I only got this game because it was obscure as hell and because it was just dirt cheap for me. Next up is yet another action RPG, but this is one of those quest-driven RPGs, and it didn't get a lot of attention like these other 2 games because there was barely any marketing advertised, but this is probably the bottom of the barrel. I dare say this is the absolute most unknown RPG of all time, and I can't believe it has a physical release both in Europe and in North America, as well as in Japan, of course. A game I've covered several times before. This is Warriors of the Lost Empire. Wow! Generic name, huh? That's probably the reason it didn't succeed. So you choose between these 4 main characters, each one plays completely different weapons, different playstyle, each with their own personality, background, and story. The story isn't that interesting, you're not gonna play this game for the story, it's all about the action, and the action is pretty solid. I do recommend playing this game more on a PlayStation Vita if you can download it digitally. But if you can't, go with the PSP, that's okay. It controls very good, as a matter of fact. Each character controls totally different. And the main point of this game is it's another dungeon crawler, as a matter of fact. But it's in third person action RPG. You have no party members. You choose one character and you're stuck with that character for the entire game. So you go to dungeons until you eventually get some items, go back, eventually you'll fight some bosses and all that jazz, so it can be very repetitive. This isn't a great game per se, it's not one of the best hidden gems on the system, even though I do consider this game as a hidden gem. It's a game that it's an acquired taste if you're into these types of quest-driven grind fests, because this game is kind of hard, as a matter of fact. You're probably gonna like this game. And as for the story, like I said before, it's not that interesting. It's all about a group of mercenaries hiring warriors, which are, you know, these characters right here, to investigate the disappearance of a lost empire or something like that. And it is a little bit dark at the beginning, and it's interesting, it traps you, it hooks you in, but then as you keep playing you realize it's not about the story. Anyway, it's a good game, it's a hidden gem. Just don't expect a lot from this game, it's not that great, to be honest, it's just good, it's average. Next, I want to talk about a strategy RPG developed by Gung-Ho. Gung-Ho is a company that had a bunch of MMORPGs. They are the ones behind the Ragnarok games, Ragnarok Online, Ragnarok Tactics, which I've praised a million times in this channel, and some other MMORPGs like the Grandia MMORPG or the Shin Megami Tensei MMORPG. Believe it or not, those 2 games had an MMORPG. Anyway, this game that's exclusive on the Nintendo DS, not a lot of attention was there. I don't know what happened, like maybe Gung-Ho, you know, wasn't very interested in promoting the game. It's called Hero Saga Leviathan Tactics. I've covered this game before, and it is a hidden gem, it's good. It's also an acquired taste because it is a grid-based strategy RPG, influenced by Tactics Ogre, but the battle system is kind of different. I mean, the movement, the area, the map design will heavily remind you of Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics, but once you go into battle with your enemies, you will play in these formations with your leader, with the platoon leader and the platoon itself fighting, and it revolves around a triangle attack. You know, one type of attack is stronger against the other, but weak against the other, and so on. It's kind of convoluted and it's very hard to get into, and obviously it's a freaking grind fest, like 9 out of 10 tactical RPGs. Freaking grind fest, you're gonna be grinding a lot. At the beginning of the game you won't be doing that often, but as you progress, you make progress, you'll realize it's actually very hard and very challenging. So I do recommend this game, it's very good, but only for hardcore players. It's such a unique game, and I have no idea why it's so unknown, maybe because the title isn't that interesting. Hero Saga, I mean the saga of a hero, that's an extremely generic game. Could have done with a better name, but the subtitle, Leviathan Tactics. Leviathan Tactics. Maybe you should have called that way. Anyway, don't miss out on this game if you're a hardcore player and if you want something really unique, different, and very, very grindy, this is a game for you. Last but not least, I want to get into a game that I've never covered before. I only got this game a few months ago before returning to Mexico. Ram sent this game to me, it's a gift, thank you very much once again. And it's very obscure because it only got a couple of physical releases in Japan and China, but both of them have English subtitles. This is called Mistover. Now, Mistover is a straight up, shameless clone of Darkest Dungeon. Yeah, you remember this game? On the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, it's everywhere. It got pretty famous, Western RPG. And well, this game right here, Mistover, it's a straight up clone. It plays extremely similar, dungeon crawler, roguelike RPG with randomly generated dungeons. Each time you enter the same dungeon, it's completely different. It's all about the exploration, it's dark as hell. It just so happens to be Japan's take on the genre, on the game Darkest Dungeon. Because it's all about, you know, the cutesy, small, chibi anime characters being in the same type of gameplay mechanics Darkest Dungeon has. Now this is yet another game you're probably not gonna play because of the story. It's all about these characters, you know, entering these gothic style houses and abandoned ruins and places just to save or investigate the mysterious mist that is kind of swallowing up the world, something like that. So they're desperate, the characters are desperate, and they send these teams of characters, your customizable characters, into expeditions, to bring out items, to find out what the hell is going on, to find a way to, get over this horrible fate of humanity. It's a Japanese RPG, so it's all about saving the world. And it's a turn-based RPG, the exact same system, the exact same mechanics as in Darkest Dungeon. You take turns, there's a bleeding system, there's a crazy system. If your characters fight too much or explore too much, they go crazy and all that jazz. But compared to Darkest Dungeon, this is like a more friendly entry into the game, to the structure of the game. So it's Darkest Dungeon for noobs maybe, but it's still a hard game as a matter of fact. Don't underestimate this game. Anyway, Mist Over, don't forget it's digital only, but the physical versions of this game are Chinese, like the one I have right now. The Chinese or the Japanese version both have English subtitles. It's kind of rare and it's kind of hard to find, so if this is your type of game, good luck finding it. So that's all for today, people. I only chose 5 games. I have more in my collection that are very obscure and very unknown. So I only chose 5 for today in hopes of making a part 2. So if you want a part 2, let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!